Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I am your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Stand by for 3 compelling hours of breaking news, challenging views and topical debate. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 03444991000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, July the 21st. Here's what's coming up. Apologies if this is a leading question, but are you as furious as I am about this grotesque waste of taxpayers' money, the £200 million and counting COVID inquiry, the pointless exercise in establishment deceit that costs us an obscene £180,000 every single day? In her learned pronouncements yesterday, Chairwoman Baroness Hallett condemned the hurty words used in Downing Street at the height of the crisis and was appalled by Dominic Cummings' alleged misogynistic language. Who gives a rat's backside? Is that what this ludicrously uninquiring inquiry was set up for? To deliberate on whether bungling Boris and his useless gang were woke enough? 03444991000. And, of course, if only those nasty Tories had acted faster, telling us all to stay a yard away from our friends and families earlier. Lockdowns could have been avoided, apparently. 23 lives could have been saved, not 22,999, not 23,001, but precisely 23,000. Naturally, those lovely left-wing nations, Scotland and Wales, handled the unnecessary panic much better than the horrible right-wing Conservative-run England. Did they? What do you think? Was Nicola Sturgeon's order to saw 6 inches off the bottom of school classroom doors something to be admired? Was Welsh dictator Kim Drakeford's instruction to cordon off newsagents' magazine shelves an impressive virus beater? Or were this pair of tin-pot tyrants just as mad as that chaotic ship of fools in Westminster? 03444991000. And when is this inquiry going to realise that lockdowns don't work? That they didn't, as the haughty Baroness declared, save lives. They merely postponed deaths. We don't need this jaw-dropping expensive nonsense, do we? 03444991000. In other news, a shock new study has revealed that 1 in 5 people living in Britain are not British, a fifth of the population of foreigners. I actually like the idea of a multicultural society, but this has gone ridiculously too far. This is saturation, a dangerous dilution of British culture and traditions. A generation of pathetic politicians have betrayed this great nation. And still the illegal migrants come, and still the legal migrants come. Hundreds and thousands of them every year. What do you think of all that? 03444991000. Also, on today's action-packed show, the strange outlawing of the word Christmas as a right-on chocolate company unleashes its so-called countdown calendar that most of us know as a Christmas advent calendar. Meanwhile, Tesco's continues to call its Christmas trees evergreen trees. What is this all about? 03444991000. Plus, amid its ongoing litany of self-made disasters, the BBC plummets into deep crisis as more and more fed-up viewers cancel their TV licence fees, costing the state broadcaster a staggering £1 billion in losses. Have you cancelled yours? 03444991000. Also, Meghan's weird bid to look like her husband's late mum, Princess Di. Well, what do you make of that? We'll show you some pictures. They're pretty disturbing, I'd say. And I'll speak to the tree surgeon fired by a local council because he hung out 300 Union Jack and St George's flags. I mean, why? Is patriotism a crime punishable by the sack? What's going on here? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. Let's get the day right there, hey? God, I'm so frazzled that I need to get to the weekend, I guess. We all need to get to the weekend. But first, let's get through this show. We've got lots to get through. Let's talk straight away to barrister, commentator, political observer, Stephen Barrett. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Hi, it's nice to be here, as always.
You know, we heard Baroness Hallett proclaiming from on high, from her haughty position at the head of that ludicrously uninquiring COVID inquiry yesterday. We'll go to some of the other details first, but the thing that, I was infuriated by, and the main thing that I think that really enraged me was when she started talking about, you know, the hurty words that people were using in Downing Street, that Dominic Cummings allegedly used misogynistic language at the height of the COVID crisis. Well, you know, all very awful, I'm sure, but excuse me if I tell you, I don't give a rat's backside. I don't care what they were saying to each other. Why, they didn't tell us that the inquiry would be looking into the language and just how woke the government ought to be. That's what she's saying. The people in charge of the COVID crisis in Downing Street weren't woke enough. What is that all about, Stephen?
So the country is basically now just a socialist conspiracy, and the plan is to exonerate the blob. So you must find out that everybody who works in the public sector is obviously marvellous, so they couldn't possibly have done anything, and you have to find somebody else to blame. This inquiry obviously had predetermined outcomes. I mean, breaking news, Kev. Woman who hates Boris Johnson thinks Boris Johnson did something wrong. I mean, it really is just, that's the level of debate. The allegations of sexism come from a lady who as a civil servant, arranged the karaoke party in Downing Street that Boris wasn't at and yet got the blame for. But she, you know, has failed upwards, left the civil service, and now has some other gainful, entirely
Sue Gray, yeah,
you know, undeserving.
In the time-honoured fashion of Westminster, she was a disaster, made serious mistakes throughout her checkered career, and therefore has, of course, as always, been elevated to the House of Lords. She's now a peer. Isn't that special?
It was actually Sue Gray's karaoke machine, but it wasn't. This wasn't the lady who made the sexism allegations. The lady who arranged the party made the sexism allegations. She just borrowed Sue Gray's machine. Yeah. But they're all much of a muchness now. We have a state of people who get a lot of money unearned and without any obvious merit or ability. And by the way, Kev, Baroness Hallett's probably about 2 seconds away from calling us both sexist. So I'd just like to highlight 3 incredibly brilliant, intelligent women who have criticised Baroness Hallett in the last 24 hours. That's Isabel Oakeshott, the brilliant and fantastic Baroness Claire Fox, and Miriam Cates. Now, that's across the political spectrum of brilliantly talented, fiercely intelligent women who have criticised the mediocre Baroness, who is nothing really more than an establishment mind. I don't think she's very clever. Neither of those 3 women are terribly impressed with her alleged work. And this entire thing is costing us a ridiculous amounts of money, and she's basically just burning public cash at will. I mean, do you want me to tell you what the money's being spent on? Because I think it's quite shocking.
I'd be very interested to know what is that? What is that? 180 grand every day, 200 million pounds spent so far. I'd be fascinated to know what it is they're supposed to be spending our taxpayers' money on.
And
please do tell me.
And we need to know, because Isabel Oakeshott points out there's apparently going to be 8 more of these things that we could have written in advance. We know exactly what they'll say. They call them pods
or something, don't they? There's different bits, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just going to say that, you know, everybody who worked in the public sector was amazing. They were brilliant. The evil Tories were awful, and, you know, the left-wing governments were better. Yeah. That's all it's going to say. But anyway, back to the costs. Everybody is, I think, quite rightly going to say it's just a gravy train for lawyers. I am a lawyer, and I don't dissociate myself from that comment. But only about 110 million has been spent on lawyers. 50 million of that is because she just lets anybody who wants to speak at the inquiry have lawyers. I mean, it really is just like, you know,
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
That Oprah skit where she just goes, you can have a lawyer and you can have a lawyer. Everyone has a lawyer. So that's ridiculous. But that's only about 110 million of it. The rest of it is going on really ridiculous things. So there's something called the Inquiry Secretariat, which has cost £28 million. And this is just a bunch of civil servants who were paid the second grade of the civil service, so about 100 grand a year, to sit there and presumably twiddle pencils and do all sorts of important other secretariat work. I mean, how can a country tell you that it's secretly become a communist nation without telling you it's secretly become a communist nation? We have an inquiry secretariat that costs 28 or just under 28 million. Have you heard, Kev, of Every Story Matters?
No, but that certainly doesn't sum up my career. But carry on.
Unfortunately, that's unfortunate, because if I hadn't, and if the listeners and viewers haven't heard of it, then that's 15 million we've spaffed up the wall for no good reason. This is some sort of PR fluff campaign to go along with the inquiry for absolutely no reason. The operational running costs are 26 million. I mean, what are they eat? If she's not eating caviar every day, she's just burning money. I mean, and she herself has landed, I think, just short of $1 million.
It's grotesque. It's an obscene spectacle, and it's not achieving anything. Now, let's talk about some of the details of what she said yesterday. I mean, she said, oh, if only we'd have started social distancing a week earlier. You know, the government was too late, too little too late. If it decided a week earlier or even a month earlier, she talked about the lost month of February, then 23,000 lives could have been saved. As I said in my monologue, not 22,999, not 23,001, but the really handy round number of 23,000. And where did they get that? They just plucked that out of the air. The idea that lockdowns could have been avoided, it's as if to say, well, if it had just acted earlier, we wouldn't have needed the brilliant lockdowns, the lockdowns that, of course, saved us all. Where is the examination of whether or not lockdowns were advisable in the first place? Never mind lockdowns could have been avoided. In all circumstances, lockdowns should have been avoided. They did not work. She talked about lockdowns, of course, saved lives. They didn't save lives. They postponed deaths. That's all they did. They did not save lives. And every time we had a lockdown and we came out of the lockdown, people get towards the lockdown, end of the lockdown, they go, oh, look at the death rate has plummeted. It's fantastic. This is really well. We'd come out of lockdown, then the death rate would go right up again. And then we'd have to have another lockdown, which I would humbly suggest proves that the first lockdown didn't work. Have another lockdown. Oh, look, death rate right down. Come out of lockdown. Oh, death rate's gone up again. Better have another lockdown. Couldn't they see inherently that these lockdowns were not working?
I mean, I don't want to break the hearts of listeners and viewers, but more children were beaten to death in their own homes than died of COVID.
I know, that is an extraordinary statistic. I found that out yesterday.
Absolutely awful. What she has to do, because this is a socialist / communistic state, what she has to do is to say that this isn't happening and it's a good thing. So she has to both say lockdowns could have been avoided and they're amazing. I mean, this is complete tosh. But at the end of the day, I don't really care that this is effectively a socialistic state. I care about the fact that I'm paying for this nonsense and to be lectured at by an extremely privileged woman who, as far as I can tell, I mean, if she believes all this nonsense, she's dim. You know, she's definitely dim. She's not of any of the caliber of those three women I mentioned earlier intellectually. You know, Isabel calls it a nothing burger, and I think that's what we're going to get eight more of these, and we're going to spend how many more hundreds of millions of pounds on this nonsense.
Where did she get the idea that somehow left-wing Scotland and left-wing Wales handled the COVID crisis better than, if you like, right-wing Britain? It wasn't really right-wing, conservative Britain, put it that way. Where does she get that idea? Because, you know, I remember Nicola Sturgeon. She, at one point, brilliant Nicola, Queen of Scots, she ordered that 6 inches was to be sawn off the bottom of classroom doors in schools, because that would save kids. What she should have been thinking is, oh, wait a minute, kids don't get COVID. So let's continue their education. Let's not stop it. Never mind sawing 6 inches off the bottom of doors. Absurd. Meanwhile, in the Soviet Socialist Republic of Wales, Kim Jong-Drakeford, the dictator, the tin pot tyrant there, Mark Drakeford, he had these sort of huge death tape barriers across the magazine racks in newsagents. Now that really beat the virus, didn't it? So where does Baroness Hallett, in all her wisdom, get the idea that Scotland and Wales handled it so much better than England?
Well, this is it. So this is why why listeners and viewers just need to reject a socialistic state, because it's nasty and it's incompetent, and you get both of those features. And this all Baroness Hallett is doing is further irritating the public, because we've got common sense. I mean, in the former USSR, I wouldn't be able to broadcast this. You and I'd probably be in a gulag if we're absolutely honest, Kev. But you'd probably be there with me.
Yeah, we'd be sharing a cell, Stephen. Yeah. I'll tell you.
But this is a much weaker version of that. So we can actually publicly say that this is complete tosh. And Baroness Hallett has no comeback other than to try and say that we're sexist, which is why I've hopefully seen that one off at the pass. But her arguments don't make sense. Her points are completely irrational. She has refused to investigate very serious questions, and she is spaffing away hundreds of millions of pounds on nonsense and gibberish.
Yeah.
I mean, and we have a right to end this. I really think we should just force them to end this inquiry. There is nothing more interesting is going to come out of this.
It's a disgusting spectacle, and they will not, right from the start, they would not and they will not investigate the crucial question. Lockdowns. Did they work? Should we have locked down? Should we have a lockdown again? The principle of lockdowns. That's what it refuses to do. The only thing this ludicrous inquiry, this uninquiring inquiry, does when it comes to lockdowns is it says, did we lock down early enough? Did we lock down hard enough? Did we lock down long enough? What they should be saying is, should we have locked down at all? And the answer to that question, and you don't need £200 million to come to this conclusion, you don't need to spend £180,000 every day. I can answer that question for free. Lockdowns did not work.
Yes, and Sweden shows that. And this 23,000 figure is absolutely ludicrous. It's from the thoroughly discredited professor from UCL. Everybody who understands anything about, and I'm not very good with maths, as I often say, but I've looked at other people like Fraser Nelson's making very good points about this. So is Tom Harwood. You know, the maths simply doesn't work.
Of course they don't. It's out of the ether, that is.
But this is what happens. You see, socialistic states have to lie to you because they are nasty and incompetent, and they have to hide their incompetence. They don't mind showing you their nastiness. But unless we stop this, unless we push back, we will end up like every other socialistic state with a fence around us to keep us in. You know, this is, and they're just wasting public money. And we have important things to spend public money on, not Baroness Hallett and her dislike of Boris Johnson.
Yeah, the COVID inquiry has also found, we're going to go to break in a second, but let's quickly talk about this. The COVID inquiry has also found that lockdowns brought ordinary childhood to a halt, and the closure of schools will have lasting effects. In fact, lockdowns are having lasting effects to this day, socially, culturally, economically. One terrible effect of the lockdowns and the furlough scheme was it recalibrated the hard-working mentality of British people. Millions and millions of people were told, well, we'll give you nearly all your wages and you don't have to go to work. And guess what? 2 years later, when they said, right, time to go back to work, millions go, you know, I rather like this not working. I don't think I'll bother again. So we completely, catastrophically rewired, recalibrated the British mentality when it comes to work, which is possibly the worst effect of this. The economy is still suffering. Kids are still suffering. Kids should never have been taken out of school. Schools should never have been closed down because kids didn't get COVID. And none of this is really being considered by this pointless waste of time, the COVID inquiry.
And you know, I mentor kids from poor backgrounds throughout the United Kingdom, and one of my boys had his A-levels absolutely destroyed by this. And of course, because he's from a poor state school, they didn't get any of the benefit. It was proven that all the public schools had sharper elbows and got better sort of fake grades than the state school kids got. And he got absolutely absolutely shafted. That was then a problem that we had to fix. We had to find a new university. We had to find a way of getting into university. He went on to get an incredibly good grade at university, but then, of course, going into graduate employment, of course, they go on about your A-levels again. So all of a sudden, A-levels became a problem all over again. I mean, we did get through it, but his life has been made monstrously harder for absolutely no reason. And she's got no interest in investigating any of this, because to do so would have to mean she has to criticise the Blob, which she will not do because she is of the Blob.
Yeah, she's right. She's right that Boris and the gang screwed it right up. They were pathetic. They were pathetic. But so was Scotland, so was Wales. So, in fact, nearly the whole world was pretty pathetic when it came to COVID. Never really took on board that actually, with all due respect, I don't mean to undermine all those who suffered tragedies and all those who died. It was a terrible, terrible thing. But with all due respect to the people who suffered through this, in virus terms, it was pretty unlethal. Really tiny percentage of people died from it, and most of them were very old with other conditions. So the whole planet, including Britain, just panicked way over the top about it, which is another thing they should talk about. Listen, we better go to break now, and when we come back, Stephen, we're going to discuss an extraordinary study. New statistics reveal, check this out, folks, 1 in 5 people living in Britain, 1/5 of the population are foreign, they're not British. That's it. That's really, really astonishing, isn't it? We'll talk about that next, so stay tuned.
My dad working all hours, even though he's old. Bringing home pittance is not how it should be, yet all is good for those overseas. To come in and basically take everything from me, living it up, housed warm and rich, while we struggle, you silly twit. So thank you for nothing, you silly old fool. Step down now, let someone else rule.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, not so long ago, the shock statistic emerged that 1 in 6 people who live in this country are not British, they're foreign. Now, the Office for National Statistics has amended this figure because since that statistic came out, another 2.9 non-British arrivals have come here to this country, some of them legal, some of them illegal. So the British population, I'm still with Stephen Barrett, barrister and commentator. Stephen, the non-British population now has surged to 13.6 million. That's up 19.6%. That means that a fifth of the people who live in this country are now not British. Now, as I said in my monologue, I actually like the idea of a multicultural society within reason. But we have had a generation of, frankly, pathetic politicians who have just let millions and millions of people into this country. And we've got to the point where British tradition and British culture is being dangerously diluted. And they're still coming at the rate of hundreds of thousands a year. Our politicians have a duty to sort of preserve this country, to save this country from complete saturation of foreigners. You know, I'm not trying to be racist here. As I say, I like the idea of a multicultural society. I like different cultures here, but not to this extent. It's getting worse and worse. 1 in 5? That's absurd, isn't it?
Well, it's really interesting because you had to cover your own back there because you quite rightly, as I would be, you're worried that we're going to get called racists. The breaking news, Kev, the US State Department has just put out a statement saying that it will protect you and I, and that it calls on our government to engage constructively with us and anybody who wishes to criticize the mass migration problem. The US government has also publicly offered to assist nation states such as ours in ending the migration crisis and fixing it. So thank goodness for the intervention of the Americans, because they have simply allowed us, freed British people. You know how constrained you and I have been, all of us have been for years. We can't say things in public. You know, it's been absolutely ridiculous, but the numbers are too great, and integration is a problem. I challenge you, actually. I don't want to live in a multicultural society. I'm more than happy to live in a multi-ethnic society, and I'm more than happy for all cultures to sort of be celebrated. But at the end of the day, we're Britain, and that means I don't want to live in a culture with let's take a presumably non-offensive one, but lots of continental cultures don't really know how to queue. Okay? I don't want to live in a culture where they don't know how to queue. I want to live in a culture where we all queue. And because we're a multi-ethnic society, we've got all sorts of friends who know perfectly well how to queue. And that's a marvellous thing to do. But I don't want people coming here who don't know how to queue or who aren't interested in learning how to queue. I don't want people coming here to live in migrant hotels.
Do you mean like Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby, you know, when they didn't queue up to see the Queen?
And Holly Willoughby were outrightly, you know, met with outrage because that was, and David Beckham was rightfully praised because he knew how to queue.
Yeah, in Britain, the worst crime is to jump a queue. But you know, it is a good point. It is one of our cultural traditions, and as I say, I think it's a healthy thing for a country to have different cultures within it. It makes things more interesting. But at the rate we're going, all of our cultures and traditions, they're already being dangerously diluted. We're reaching saturation point. And the thing is, going forward, there's still hundreds of thousands coming every year. Going forward, we might as well say goodbye to Britain. It's the Britain that we knew. It's dying a death. And it's because of these idiots in Westminster who don't seem to understand what's going on.
Because they're spineless. It's because this is a socialistic state and all they're doing is propping up their self-interest. But in cultural terms, I'm culturally very much a first century Roman. And I would not want what they had back then, people who are dead now, called the Carthaginians. I would not want large amounts of Carthaginians living in this country because they believe it's perfectly okay to sacrifice children to their gods. Okay? I am not happy with the rape gangs. That is outrageous. It was obviously a culturally accepted...
Who is happy with them?
Well, exactly, but we've all had to shut up and not complain about
I know
it
what you
fear
mean,
of being called racist.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a serious problem. I want people to give me a call, as I say, because you know, we've already reached saturation point, and we all know they're coming in still at the rate of 500,000, 600,000 a year. Nothing is being done to stop this constant inflow. So everybody, let me know what you think about this. 03444991000. Are Stephen and I alone in finding it quite shocking now that 1 in 5 people who live in this country are foreigners? They're not born in Britain. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. Stephen, big thanks to you. Thank you very much for an excellent start to the show. The brilliant Stephen Barrett there, barrister and commentator. When we come back, I'm going to talk to Henry Bolton, the international border experts, about what I say is one of the reasons we have this worsening migrant crisis is because so many people, you know, from the establishment, so many people sort of empower middle-class politicians, that kind of thing, Labour politicians, showbiz stars. They mischaracterise what our problem is. I'll show you what I mean when we come back. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He is international border control expert Henry Bolton. Welcome, Henry.
Hi, Kevin. Hello.
Good to have you on board. Now, bear with me. So my proposal is that one of the problems with our burgeoning, escalating migrant crisis, there are too many middle-class people, middle-class politicians, people of influence who mischaracterise it. I'm going to play these clips now. It's going to take a minute and a half, but you'll get the point. First of all, last night on Question Time, the alleged comedian, the not very funny Zoe Lyons. Check this out.
A country we're missing a trick as well. If we have all of these people who are coming over seeking asylum, many of them coming from countries where there have been doctors, nurses, engineers, scientists, and we're sticking them away and not allowing them to integrate in any way, shape or form, you know, checks considered, that we are missing a trick on all of that talent that is also coming here. And it's clearly this topic is such a hot button, a political hot button, but in all of that rhetoric, the human side of it gets lost.
Yeah, very good point, Zoe. So those asylum seeker hotels and those military camps, they're just full, aren't they, of nurses, doctors, scientists. Yeah, brilliant. Here, echoing that excellent take on the migrant crisis is the Deputy Leader of the Green Party, Rachel Millward. Take it away, Rach.
So I'm here outside the group training camp where the Home Office has decided to temporarily house 540 asylum seekers. What struck me most actually from this first site visit is the stories from the Home Office staff of the asylum seekers in other sites. They're talking about surgeons and doctors and lawyers, people who come from Eritrea or Afghanistan or all kinds of different places, who really should have the right to work.
No, Rachel, they're not doctors, lawyers and engineers. They're grifters, mostly young men, chancers who lie their way into the country. And finally, here's the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer's right-hand man. I think he's called the Parliamentary Secretary of the Prime Minister now or something very important. He's an MP, Labour MP. This is Darren Jones again on Question Time with a new take on who these migrants who cross the channel illegally really are.
But let me tell you, when you're there on the site, seeing these dinghies put together by these organised criminal gangs, which are clearly not safe, and when you see that the majority of the people in these boats are children, babies and women who have been...
No, they're not.
No,
they're not.
No, you have got to take... No, look, I get this is...
North of 90% of them are adult men.
Well, Henry, you get the point. All these people who are people of influence, people of power in Darren Jones's case, you know, people like Zoe Lyons, she's a big TV star, people listen to her. They just said, oh, you know, all these asylum seekers, these migrants who come across the channel, they're doctors, they're nurses, they're engineers, they're scientists. This is just ludicrous. And in Darren Jones's case, a complete lie. The majority of them are babies, women and children. We know that upwards of 75% of them are actually young males between the age of 17 and 34. So we're never going to get anywhere with this migrant crisis, Henry, unless we have the courage to confront the truth of it. And the truth of it is that most of these people breaking into our country illegally are young male chancers, aren't they?
They are, Kevin. And unlike most of these politicians and a lot of these activists, I have spent more than 2 decades working in the sort of countries that these people come from, and in many cases, the actual countries that they've come from. I know what they're like. I've dealt with refugees in those countries, for example, Albania. I've dealt with people in Afghanistan. I spent 2.5 years there. Central Asia. I headed the UK's efforts to disrupt people smuggling networks through the Balkans, through the southern Balkans. You know, I've dealt with these people. And the problem that we've got in this country is that we've had it too good, too comfortable for too long. And our urban liberal elite are the most privileged of the lot. They don't experience the crime like the rest of us, the poverty. They don't live in somewhere like Ammanford in South Wales, or these sort of places where that are having these asylum seekers foisted on them into hotels and so on. They are living in a bubble. Now, I genuinely believe that most of them, not all, are guilty of not a lot more than good intention and extreme naivety. But it's that naivety that is leading policy on this at the moment.
Exactly. That guy Darren Jones, Henry, is a very powerful guy. He is literally the right-hand man of the Prime Minister and is tipped to be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer. I mean, where does Rachel Millward get the idea, and indeed Zoe Lyons, that behind the gates of those military camps where we put asylum seekers, and in those asylum seeker hotels, are hundreds, thousands of doctors, surgeons, scientists, engineers? Where did they get that idea?
Because that's what these people tell them. And they are naive enough to take it on face value. None of these people have got passports, let alone a certificate or a diploma or a degree, saying, I passed out the University of Kabul and I'm now a sort of brain surgeon. They're not presenting any documentary evidence for this. They're simply saying it to people who they know are suckers for that sort of disinformation. They know it works to their advantage to have an element of the British political establishment and media and activists campaigning on that basis. So what these people need to do, and they won't do it because I genuinely don't think they've got the guts to do it, is go to places like rural Syria or Afghanistan, go to northern Helmand and see how these people actually behave, even towards each other. There's a governor it was in Helmand, but it was reiterated by somebody totally unconnected in Tajikistan to me, who said, what you people in the West don't understand is that the culture in this part of the world is that if there's an opportunity, any means is justified in trying to grasp that opportunity. They will lie, they will cheat, and they admit it amongst themselves. But but we've got a naive class here. Now, the problem is that that naive class, as I say, is really dictating policy in this country.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
In the case of some politicians, Kevin, they are kowtowing to it because they think that's where the vote is. And they're not just naive good doers, or sort of well-doers. They are actually lying to the British public because they think it will encourage the vote and the support for their constituency.
Yeah, and I think that Darren Jones, when he said the majority of them are babies, women and children, I mean, that is a shocking lie. Now, before you go, Henry, just a quick word on Shabana Mahmood's, the Home Secretary's, alleged hard-line crackdown on the migrant crisis. Lots of tough-sounding new measures. Now, there's a problem here. A lot of people say, oh, she won't get those through Parliament. I think she will, because the Labour Party has this massive majority, and most of them will vote with whatever the Cabinet wants. So I think she'll get most of these measures through. In other words, things like every 30 months we'll check on whether or not asylum seekers or migrants' home countries are still at war. That won't even happen, but that'll get through. This business of whether or not asylum seekers can bring their families over, trying to sort of cut down on that. That'll get through. Most of these measures will get through. The thing is, though, every single asylum seeker is told, right, well, you can't bring your family over. They'll go to the European Court of Human Rights and they will win the case, and they will be able to bring their family over. If after 30 months Britain decides some country is no longer war-torn and wants to deport someone or an asylum, they will go to the Court of Human Rights, who will decide, oh, well, their country is still a bit at war. So the point is, everything she said, and I mean everything, is completely undermined by her desire, the Prime Minister's desire, and the Attorney General, Richard Hermer's desire, to remain in the European Convention on Human Rights. As long as we do not have the right to make our sovereign decisions in the end, they are made in Strasbourg by the European Court of Human Rights, none of Shabana Mahmood's measures can have any effect at all. Am I right?
You're right, and I'm very pleased to hear you say that, Kevin, because I've been trying to say it for the last before once these proposals were first sort of discussed, before she even formally announced it. She's supposedly emulating Denmark. And I think this is all a response to the pressure that reform is placing on the Labour Party and the fact that they're on the back foot in the polls and all sorts of political reasons. She's trying to sound tough. And in fact, maybe she is trying to be tough. But fundamentally, you're correct. Because in the case of Denmark, their entire system is on asylum and so on, it is predicated on the principle that it is temporary in nature. You're giving temporary refuge to somebody who is going to return as soon as it's safe to do so. In this country, right from the beginning, for years now, it's been predicated on the idea that if we're going to let them in the first place, then we're in principle happy for them to stay. So it's a different approach. In Denmark, they have one authority that decides whether you stay or whether you leave. There is no further appeal. Their legislative and administrative procedural framework supports that. In this country, the Home Secretary, despite what she said, has retained all of the old architecture, the legal and administrative architecture. We've still got 5 levels of appeal in this country. That any effort to remove any of these people, and as you say, if they claim right to family life and so on, all of those claims are going to have to go through 5 levels of appeal. The cost, the administrative burden, the pressure on the courts, the whole 9 yards. None of that has been addressed by the Home Secretary.
I'll tell you,
I agree.
I agree with you. I'll tell you what she was doing. She was headline hunting. It's as simple as that. You're quite right. Nothing is going to happen. This isn't going to change the dial one bit. Got to go, Henry, but really good to talk to you as always. International border control expert Henry Bolton there. When we come back, the strange outlawing of the word Christmas. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
We've heard, you often hear it with regard to Diana, paranoid, and I always think that's kind of unfair. I mean, that's like a psychiatric diagnosis, and it seems a bit unfair apart from anything else. If I put it this way, if let's say now if David Attenborough were to come up to you and whisper in your ear that he's heard and he's got evidence that somebody is, they've taken out a contract on you and you're going to be killed.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the strange outlawing of the word Christmas. We learned earlier this week that Tesco's, the biggest supermarket chain in the country, is selling evergreen trees. Not Christmas trees, evergreen trees. Instead of, it's calling it's got festive slices instead of Christmas slices, and so on and so forth. There's a new offender in this strange arena, and that is Tony's Chocolonely company, a very woke chocolate company. Its entire raison d'etre, the basis of the company, is it doesn't use slave labour. Trouble is, child slave labour. Trouble is, it turns out that it does, or at least it has in the past. It does its best, but it has not succeeded in that endeavour. Anyway, it has got a Christmas advent calendar out, you know, where you take every day through. Oh, wait a minute! It's not called the Christmas advent calendar. It's called the countdown calendar. Mustn't use that word Christmas, must we? Let's talk to Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. What is this, you know, this fear of the word Christmas? Because I'll tell you what makes me laugh about it. We know what's going on. All these corporations, they're kind of trying to sort of preempt criticism, preempt the horror of people who aren't Christians, as if every Muslim that walks past Tesco's, or every Jew that buys a bar of chocolate, or, you know, is going to go, "Oh my God, look, they've called that Christmas tree. I'm so offended. Oh, look, they've called it a Christmas advent calendar. I'm horrified." It's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, well, hi Kev, it's great to see you. They're pandering to kind of like, you know, 3% of woke maniacs and Islamist lunatics, and you know, forgetting everybody else. I mean, as you said before in the introduction, this lot have previous. They are a terrible, insufferably smug woke company.
They're Dutch, aren't they? Yeah.
They're Dutch, and I mistakenly bought a bar of their chocolate once, and I was reading. I was reading the drivel on the
yeah, that's right. It's got all that crap on the outside.
I just want some chocolate, and
we're saving the planet and stopping child labour, one square of chocolate at a time. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
We're sharing this and we're sharing that, and it's all for, you know, it's all for profit. They're just pandering to their particular audience. But I'm thinking about this, and we're getting a glimpse into the future here, which is just that we're going to have to be boycotting all of these idiots. And you know, I don't want my, you know, when I'm going into town to Marks and Spencer's or the Co-op or wherever it is, I'm buying cans of baked beans to go with my bangers and mash. I don't want that to be a political exercise, right? Yeah. But they're foisting their opinions on me. You know, they've got Marks and Spencer's, again, another one. They've got Dawn French, this, you know, horrible woman who seems to be having a nervous breakdown episode by episode on social media, and she's filming it. But
kind of anti-Israel a bit, isn't she? Or quite why she's still on Marks and Spencer's adverts. So what we're talking about here, though, with Tony's Chocolonely countdown calendar, is an aversion to the word Advent, which of course is the Christmas season, or the Christian festival of Christmas, the build-up to Christmas. So you can't use the word Advent. You know, who is it? What I'm getting at, you know, in terms of Tony's Chocolonely and Tesco's, who is it that they think are going to be so offended? I mean, when our Muslim friends are celebrating Eid, do you get into a rage? What are they talking about? What is wrong? It's a fear of Christianity, which I should point out is still the predominant religion in this country.
It is a fear of Christianity. It's a stupid. It's very difficult to get into their mindset because there's no sense to it. It's a lunatic mindset. But we have to think. You know, what's the end game here? Because where does it go? I've spoken about this actually before in relation to Tesco. But where does it go? Right? You know, Christianity is not only the religion of this country, and it's the seat of the culture. It's also part of the the common law is built on the Christian notion of justice and mercy. It's absolutely integral. What do these people want to do? Remove that and put Sharia law there? I don't think so. I don't think the people of this country want that. But as you say, Kev, just to come back to your point, there is no sense here. They don't really know what they're doing. They're pandering to an audience that really isn't there. They're cowardly. It's corporate cowardice. And what we have to do is really push back, and we do have to boycott them. The only language they understand is a kick in the profits, basically. That's what they understand.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Yeah, well, we should reclaim. You're right, Philip. We should launch a campaign to reclaim Christmas. I mean, but it is that these sort of woke corporations, you know, who predict and fear some kind of backlash if they use the word Christmas or celebrate Christianity. They're in their own world. Normal people aren't like this. Normal, you know, Muslim people, Jewish people, they don't mind the word Christmas. A lot of them rather celebrate it. It's just these strange, the wokery of corporations is becoming a bit of a scourge in this country.
Yeah, and they don't seem to learn from their past mistakes. So I'm thinking about Jaguar, I'm thinking about Bud Light. These are catastrophic examples of go woke, go broke. And people, you know, not just here, but in the States as well, and probably in Europe, you know, people hate this kind of thing. People hate being preached to. They hate being told that they're somehow horrible, that their culture is valueless, more than that their skin colour is poisonous. All of those things they really detest, and yet these idiot corporations pursue nothing more than just pursuing profits. They keep pushing and pushing and pushing it, and it's our duty to really push back. Again, I really don't want to do this. I don't want to be politicised every time I go to the shop, but we have to, because we have to fight back. This is the politics, the politicisation of everything, and this is what we're suffering now. So we have to engage with it, and we have to push back on it.
Yeah, and it's also actually integrally a kind of this strange syndrome that the thing that people worry about most in this country is British culture, that must come second place to foreign cultures, different cultures. You know, it's a sort of shame in us about ourselves, isn't it? Really weird.
And they are so, you know, they're so tone deaf to what's happening in the country at the moment, because people are so sick of that. We've had that for years. You know, we've had that for what, 20, 30 years now, the burgeoning of identity politics, the burgeoning of woke. And people are, you know, we've seen on the streets, people are reclaiming the flag. People are celebrating their culture. And they are so deaf to this because, as you say, they live in their little echo chambers.
Well, think about it, though, Philip. You know, you're right. The Raising the Colours, the flag campaign, thousands of flags, hundreds of thousands appearing all over the country, and it was regarded as a crime. Local councils ripping them all down, spending 70,000 quid pulling them down. So how dare you? We're going to talk to a tree surgeon who got fired by his local council because he put up 300 flags later in the show. Philip, gotta go, but always great to talk to you. What a pleasure. That's Philip Kisley from the New Culture Forum. When we come back after the 5 o'clock news, we're going to talk about the BBC. Everybody's so fed up with it. They're stopping paying their TV licences, and they've lost £1 billion. They're £1 billion down. Stay tuned for that story. You don't want to miss it.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of today's spectacular edition of Drive Time, hosted by me, your genial host, Kevin O'Sullivan, with you all the way till 7 o'clock. Then Samara Gill, my producer, will take over from me presenting my show, The Political Asylum. By the way, it's my TV show at 9 o'clock. Just sitting here doing adverts for myself. My TV show, What Just Happened, is on at 9 p.m. You don't want to miss that. It's fantastic. But we've got a couple of hours to go. In the next hour, I just mentioned to Philip Kisley, in 20 minutes or so, we're going to talk to Billy Crotty. He's a tree surgeon and a patriot. He put 300 flags out, Union Jacks and St George's flags, in his local area. His local council found out and axed him. They scrapped his £9,000 contract. What, so patriotism is some kind of crime, punishable by dismissal? It's extraordinary, extraordinary. We'll talk to poor Billy in just a little while. We'll try and get some of your calls in as well, literally in a little while. So 03444991000. Before we get to all that, though, let's talk about the BBC. We seem to talk about the BBC every single day, usually because of a scandal, a disgrace, a crisis. It's all self-made. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about Donald Trump's maybe $5 billion lawsuit because Panorama lied about him, pretended he called for violent insurrection when he didn't. Newsnight did the same thing. They doctored tape of him, so he's suing. We also covered the story yesterday of the fact that the chairman, the new boss of Children in Need, the BBC's charity, had to quit after 11 days in disgrace. Because he had to go to court for a very, very serious driving offence. He knocked some poor lady off her bicycle and he got an 8-month suspended sentence. So he's had to go. Barely a day goes past without this calamitous organisation making some kind of self-made mistake. And guess what? By the way, along the way, I don't think they're particularly producing that many programmes that people want to watch. That's what happens, folks, when you don't have the commercial imperative. And viewers, BBC customers, if you like, are getting more and more fed up with this. And guess what? So many of them have stopped paying their licence, their TV licence, that the BBC is a staggering £1 billion down. Now, this is a real crisis. Let's talk to former BBC broadcaster, Professor of Journalism at City University, Suzanne Franks. Welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Hello. Nice to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. Now, this is, I mean, we know about all the crises that have been unfolding in the past few weeks. Well, have been unfolding, frankly, for quite a few years. But the fact now that more and more people are just not paying their licences. A lot of them are still being pursued by the BBC for enforcement visits and all that. But the BBC is now £1 billion down, as more and more people desert the state broadcaster. This is a real crisis, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's been growing for some time, actually. Licence fee evasion is something that sort of got steadily more and more of a headache for them. But, I mean, what I would say is that the licence fee itself is a very outmoded way of paying for a public broadcaster.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a very anachronistic system. I mean, you know, I'm an absolutist on the BBC. You know, people say, "Oh, you hate the BBC. Why do you want to get rid of the BBC?" I don't want to get rid of the BBC. I think there are still great things about the BBC. I want the BBC, though, to stand on its own 2 feet, to produce programmes that people want to watch, and perhaps charge subscriptions or maybe even take advertising. In other words, to get more commercial. This old system whereby by law we have to give it 180 quid or so a year, it can't survive for that much longer, can it, Suzanne?
Well, I think I don't think I quite agree with you that subscription is the route, but I think the actual mode of in 1922, when the BBC was set up, you paid for it because you owned a radio in your home. You had a little box in the corner of the room, and that's basically what we still have now. Is that through owning a set, you're liable for this money, and that's ridiculously outmoded because a lot of people consume content in all sorts of other ways.
Yeah. How do you think it should amend its finances, its economic system then?
Well, I'm a great supporter of the German system, where it's actually you pay by the household, so it's basically a household levy, as in council tax or through utility bill or something like that, and that way it's much easier to track and much more difficult to evade.
Okay, I mean, as I say, I'm an absolutist. I think it should pay for itself and produce programs that people want to watch.
Yeah, but you say that, but that's been floated many times before. I mean, Mrs. Thatcher was very keen on changing the whole sort of funding structure in the 1980s, and she commissioned an inquiry into that, and they came back and said no way. And you know why they didn't end up with advertising? Because the ITV companies absolutely didn't want the BBC.
I could see that point. But it's a tough old world out there, and the strongest win. It's a survival of the fittest. So if the BBC gets out there and takes advertising and it hurts ITV will have to raise their game. That's the way of the world. I don't see why the BBC should be excused commercial competition.
Well, because the BBC actually is a public broadcaster and it does a lot of things.
Yeah, but I think it should stop being a public broadcaster. I think it should become a private broadcaster.
You say that, but during COVID, when education at home was absolutely crucial, it wasn't Netflix that was providing all this content to help children be educated at home.
Got me through it.
Well, no. If you were educating your children properly,
actually, I was working, so it doesn't really count. That was just a joke. I take that point, but I mean, what can be done, Suzanne, about the BBC generally? Right now, as we speak, one of Trump's lawyers today visited number 10 Downing Street to talk about this lawsuit that,
he said he didn't go. No, actually, if you look at the reporting, he said he happened to be in Downing Street and he wasn't talking about the lawsuit.
Well, he should have been talking about it because Donald Trump will pursue that lawsuit. He will. Trust me, he will. And don't you think, Suzanne, the BBC deserve to be sued for a lot of money for that egregious distortion of the truth? They told a deliberate lie about the president.
Well, there was clearly a producer in an independent production company that made that program that did a very, very stupid, careless thing. And I'm just hoping it's not from City University, where I was head of the journalism program for many years. I hope it's not one of our alums who's made this stupid and ridiculous.
But I mean, the point is, you'll know this, that I think that's probably the reason. Someone somewhere with some kind of political idea decided to do this to Donald Trump, and the bosses, Tim Davie, poor guy, well, I mean, sort of poor guy, he had to take the fall for that. So did Deborah Turnus. Really egregious mistake. But in the end, as you know, with libels and defamation, it doesn't really matter why or how it happened, and it was broadcast, and therefore the president was egregiously defamed, egregiously libelled. Why does the BBC alone think it has the right to say, well, we've said sorry, what more do you want? If it was a newspaper or another broadcaster, ITV Channel 4, they'd have to pay a load of compensation, and so will the Beeb.
Well, if he sues in Florida, which is the most likely, he can't sue in the UK because he's out of time for defamation. If he sues in Florida, he has to prove that people in America saw that programme, and it wasn't on iPlayer, and it wasn't viewable as far as I'm aware.
It's on YouTube, though, right?
I'm not sure that it was.
Yeah,
I think that's
they're
still,
always on. Everything's on YouTube. Everything's on YouTube. This idea it wasn't screened in America. That's a kind of antediluvian attitude. Everything, all TV shows, particularly by the BBC, are pretty much screened everywhere in the world. They won't get away with that rather pathetic defence. And they keep saying we didn't defame him. What? Of course they defamed him. They defamed him in the most terrible way.
Well, how can he prove a lot? Firstly, he got re-elected on a higher vote than he'd had before, and secondly, his income and his wealth has increased hugely since last year.
But the BBC basically stated as fact that he called for violent insurrection and revolution in America. That's a very serious libel. No other organisation would even seek to defend itself. The BBC, of course, sees itself as unique. I think it's going to find out it's just another broadcaster in this respect.
Well, we'll see. But I think the FCC in America is investigating, first of all, whether anybody in the US did see the programme.
Yeah, and they did, so they can forget about those. The BBC is squirming around. But, the BBC is also saying we didn't defame him. They did. They've apologised. This is why they're going to lose the case, because they say, oh, we didn't defame him. Well, what did you apologise for? Why did the Director General quit then? Why did the head of news quit? That is a massive admission of a terrible, terrible mistake. And therefore, Donald Trump's going to win this case. And BBC's already lost £1 billion. It's going to lose $1 billion now, isn't it?
Well, let's see what damages he suffered as a result.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Just quickly before you go, Suzanne, there is a sort of governance problem, isn't there, at the BBC? Poor old Tim Davie. I mean, I say poor old Tim Davie, but he throughout his tenure, 5 years, he just lurched from one crisis to one scandal to another crisis to another scandal. Something needs to be done about the way that organisation is run. Maybe it's because it's too much of a behemoth, it's too massive. But something needs to be done to get the BBC into line and not keep stumbling into these terrible crises.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There have been one after another, and one of the things that definitely needs to be done, which I'm amazed they didn't do before, is that if you appoint somebody like Tim, particularly if you appoint someone like Tim Davie, who might be a brilliant commercial manager or whatever, but who's never made a programme and who's got no journalism background, you need somebody at his sitting by his side all the time.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating situation, but I do think the BBC sooner or later is going to have to be massively reformed, the way it's funded, the way it's run, everything, because this is getting out of control. Suzanne, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Suzanne Franks there, former BBC broadcaster, Professor of Journalism at City University. We've got time for a couple of calls, and the first call is from the great Tarquin in London. Hi, Tark.
Kevin, brilliant show.
Thank you. You always say that every time you come on.
Well, it's true.
Well, I know. Who am I to disagree?
Exactly. We're all listening to you every day, and if you were a permanent fixture, if it suited you, then I think we'd all be delighted.
Well, anyway. You may think that. I couldn't possibly comment. Let's talk about the COVID inquiry. What do you? It's a disgrace that is, isn't it?
It really is, and I think what I rather consider is something that you mentioned in your brilliant analysis over this, Wes. You always do this to me, Kev, is that you say something, oh my God, and you suddenly remind me of something that concerned me a year ago or more, where the government was, well, I'd say in cahoots, I would say, with the United Nations over these changes that hopefully you'll know about this, that's been made to these international treaties on health, and they seem to be passing power and sovereignty away from us at Parliament.
It's interesting. Yeah, the World Health Organization. Yeah. The most extraordinary thing about what actually happened in the COVID crisis was, the virus hit us. We over-panicked. We know that now. We said, well, what should we do? What can we do? Oh, let's do what China's doing. That was a bit odd, wasn't it?
Wasn't it? Very odd. And I think that what we're seeing now with this £180,000 a day. I mean, what's the audit trail on that? I'd like as an aside. But when it's all done, I get the feeling it's a huge, colossal, historical whitewash document that's going to be put in the annals.
That's
of,
exactly what it is.
With Hansard, and that's going to be the so-called official version of history. Because, and all of our concerns that you and I and everyone listening to this have, we're going to be, will just be the side part of history. We'll never get to hear any of what the people of the day actually were concerned about. It's just not going to get done.
Well, I'll tell you what we were mainly concerned about in those dark days was, should we be locked down? Why are we being locked down? Should we be? Do these lockdowns work? The COVID inquiry isn't considering that. The COVID inquiry's only consideration in terms of lockdowns was, did we lock down early enough? Did we lock down long enough? And did we lock down hard enough? Well, I keep saying, in my view, and a lot of medical experts agree, they just did not work. So the real question going forward, what this inquiry should be considering, the only crucial question is, should we ever lock down again? And the answer to that is no. No, they did not work. But the COVID inquiry, what did she say? Oh, well, if we'd have just social distanced a week earlier, lockdowns wouldn't have been necessary. Well, they weren't necessary because they didn't bloody work. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's pathetic, isn't it? This North Koreanisation of our parliament.
Yes, yes, that's it. That's it. And of course they didn't work because we had to keep having one after the other after the other. And, this COVID inquiry, her plucking figures out of the ether. 23,000 lives could have been saved. Well, how do you know that? As I said in my monologue, not 22,999 then, or 23,001, precisely 23,000. Nice round number. It's ridiculous. And so she also said in her pronouncement from on high, old Baroness Hannett, she said, the lockdowns did save lives. Lockdowns didn't save lives, they postponed deaths. So what happened was, when we went into lockdown, because we weren't allowed out of our houses, of course the virus stopped being transmitted. So suddenly, after about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, brilliant, look at the death rate down to virtually zero. Let's come out of lockdown. Week later, death rate right back up. Oh my God, we better go back into lockdown. In other words, as soon as we came out of lockdown, the death rate soars up. So they didn't save lives, they postponed deaths. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. More BS from the blobocracy.
Exactly right, Tarquin. And on that BS note, I better move on. Always good to talk to you. Tarquin from London there. Now, I've had my eye on this phone call for some time because I think it's very important. This is Rachel from Manchester. And the note I have is, my children will never recover from the lockdowns. Rachel, welcome to the show. I'm sorry about your kids. Tell me why you feel that they were so terribly affected by the lockdowns.
Oh, hiya, Kevin. So, I mean, they want to talk about the consequences of the lockdown and what happened. I've got 3 living and breathing examples here.
Yeah. How old are your kids now, Rachel?
They are 15, 13 and 9.
And they basically, their schooling was cancelled throughout this long phase.
Yeah. I mean, the youngest one, the 9-year-old, she was in nursery, so she wasn't too bad because she's got 2 older siblings as well, and we've got a garden and stuff, so she wasn't affected as much. But the eldest 2 have since been diagnosed with autism. Oh my God. And they go on about this epidemic of children who can't go to school now.
Were your kids, were they allowed to go to school at all? What happened?
No, they weren't allowed to go. I think the eldest one could have gone. But I mean, he was fine. He didn't want to go. To be honest. he was happy. Yeah.
But so it's your middle one. Your middle one has got autism, yeah.
My eldest one. My eldest one is my son. And my daughter, my middle one, she's got autism.
So I mean, my point is, I mean, who knows what causes autism? But apart from the fact that these lockdowns, the kids not being able to go to school, of course, ruined their education. They weren't being taught anything. There was also probably I would suggest, even more important element, and that is this: kids need to socialise. They need to be with each other. Going to school isn't just about learning your ABC and your maths. It's about, you know, forming friendships, hanging out, socialising. Do you know what I mean? Your kids were deprived of that, and that is very, very important for their development.
But my daughter, when she went back in, they were in for 2 weeks, and then they were off again because somebody had been diagnosed with COVID, and then they were back off and in and off.
Yeah, that's right.
But when she did finally get back into school, because she wasn't diagnosed then with autism, but socially she was so much far behind the rest of her peers, and she was really struggling with that, and she's still not able to access education now.
See what I mean? I mean, that's a terrible thing. And of course, what do we know? That kids basically were pretty unlikely to get COVID. The chances of children getting COVID were really remote. And we had teachers, the teachers' union. Remember the teachers calling kids like, you know, little COVID machines? You know, oh, we don't want to be around these kids. They've all got COVID. It was a complete lie. And the way kids were treated during the COVID crisis, I think, was possibly the biggest scandal of all the scandals in the COVID crisis.
Yeah, it definitely was. And they're all there spending all this money on the COVID inquiry when there's people there who were trying to do the right thing by their children, get them into specialist education or even get a diagnosis, and there's no money. And they're faffing all this money away every day.
So yeah, I can sense that inquiry drives me nuts. But I just think, and you've got reason. I'm furious about what happened during the COVID crisis. I'm furious about this pointless, grotesquely expensive inquiry that isn't achieving anything. You know, and I'm furious for your kids and all the other kids who were so badly abandoned throughout this time of panic. Honestly, it must make you angry.
It does, really does, really does. And I just look at them and I just feel so bad for them. You know, it's not nice, really. It's not nice what they're going through, but... It
certainly isn't. Well, listen, Rachel, my best to your kids and my best to you. Thank you very much for a very good call. Rachel in Manchester, summing up what so many parents must be thinking, are thinking. These children were abandoned. They didn't need to be. They could have gone to school. If teachers says, oh, they're going to give us COVID. No. If you were teaching old grannies who were like 89, you know, then they might have given you COVID, but the chances of little kids, teenagers or kids younger than that giving teachers COVID were absolutely astronomically small. And yet, oh no, we can't. No, the kids can't go to school. It's outrage, absolute outrage. Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the COVID crisis with the co-founder of the Together Declaration, a tireless campaigner on this issue, Alan Miller. I look forward to that. Stay tuned.
My dad working all hours, even though he's old. Bringing home pittance is not how it should be, yet all is good for those overseas. To come in and basically take everything from me, living it up, housed, warmed and rich, while we struggle, you silly twit. So thank you for nothing, you silly old fool. Step down now, let someone else rule.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just talking to that poor lady in Manchester with her 3 kids, who she says still not recovered from the COVID crisis. Not surprising. As I say, you know, they didn't get any lessons, they didn't get any education, they weren't allowed to go to school, and the most important thing, they weren't allowed to socialise with their friends. That's a terrible thing during a human being's formative years. Childhood is about learning how to interact with the community, how to interact with other human beings. Kids in the COVID crisis were deprived of that vital learning curve. Extraordinary. Really, really scandalous. And as for that inquiry, you know, every time I think about it, and that woman, Baroness Hallett, oh, the Tories were terrible. They were great in Scotland, fantastic in Wales, because they're left-wing. It's unbelievable. Let me talk now to a man who I think shares my fury about the grotesquely, obscenely expensive £180,000 a day, £200 million COVID inquiry, the inquiry with a lack of inquiring spirit. Alan Miller, the co-founder of the Together Declaration. Welcome, Alan.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Try to sum up what you thought yesterday as Baroness Hallett pronounced from on high all that their findings. I mean, once again, still no word on whether or not lockdowns should have ever happened. They talked about, oh, if only we'd have started social distancing a week earlier, then lockdowns would not have been necessary. My point is, I don't think lockdowns were ever be necessary. They don't work. So your thoughts on Baroness Hallett's almighty declaration yesterday?
Together, we said from the start that the problem with this COVID non-inquiry was that it was an insult to everyone because its terms of reference and its terms of inquiry were utterly flawed. When you're not prepared to consider the merit or the virtue or the efficacy or not of the actual lockdowns, something that had never been done before, that was the thing that was utterly unprecedented, and how they have an impact not just on any disease or not, but also on all of the other areas in terms of health, psychology, the economy, infrastructure, and everything that's happened. And this spending of our money again, another 200 million quid on top of the billions that were spent absolutely terribly, has been an insult, and it's gaslighting us, and it's saying the same thing that Keir Starmer tried to say, which is if only you just have done this just a bit earlier, everything would have been resolved. Using, by the way, modelling from Niall Ferguson and others, utterly incapable of or unwilling to bring in other reference points, other peer-to-peer research, all of which had shown various graphs and data and evidence that we should not have been locked down, and also, of course, looking at other models, like in Sweden, where you had a far better response and far better outcomes. So all of this demonstrates, unfortunately, this COVID inquiry is an insult. And what we really need to do, Kevin, and this is why Together is here now, we're not going to have this happen to us. We're organised up and down the country. We just had an event, we've very well attended. We're now going to be making sure that around digital ID, which was the direct lead on from what had happened with so-called vaccine passes and the mandatory jabs, all of which we all fought together and challenged and stopped. And frankly, this inquiry is just utterly insulting to the whole of the British public and all the people that were locked away, all our elderly, all the best of our generation, and all the children that are impacted, and the 7 million waiting list on the NHS. On and on the list goes. The damage to the economy, 20,000 hospitality venues lost. On and on we go, right? It was utterly terrible, and it's just insulting that at the end of this and all this money that's been spent, that they've come to this position. But I think that, like with many other things now, Kevin, the public's looking at this just like the public is now not renewing the BBC licence and saying we've had enough of all this stuff. We're just not going to go down the same road again.
Yeah, the words of the Who, we won't get fooled again. And did you realise, Alan, because I didn't realise that the COVID inquiry, as part of its remit, was to deliberate on whether or not Boris and his friends in his gormless gang in Downing Street were woke enough. There she was yesterday condemning some of the language used in Downing Street, that apparently Dominic Cummings, horror of horror, used misogynistic language. Is that what we're paying for Baroness Hallett and her mates to deliberate on whether or not Boris and the gang were woke enough, whether or not they used the right language in Downing Street? Frankly, as I said earlier, there's a worse way of putting this, but I don't give a rat's backside what language they were using. What worries me was how hopeless they were at dealing with this crisis.
It's exactly the problem, Kevin. We've got a situation where no one was asking why it was that Valence was saying some things at the start of this and did a U-turn. Boris and the administration should be and can be criticised for many, many things. His U-turn on a sensible approach that Sweden had, his saying that he'd eat any ID card and then pushing vaccine passports, a whole array of things that locking down the whole nation, should have been held accountable for all of those things along with others in the cabinet. And yet what we saw was farcically being held accountable for whether there was cake and Coca-Cola or wine or not. And this is just a disgrace. The seriousness, the way it disrupted society, the way it the way it impacted so much that we're still having to deal with now in all sorts of areas. And there's
massively, Alan, massively.
The economy, the debt.
Culturally, socially, we recalibrated the British propensity for hard work. You give millions of people 2 years off on pretty much full pay. They all came back saying, hey, I rather like this not working, and they haven't gone back to work. It was a catastrophe, the effects of which we are seriously feeling now, and we will feel for years to come. Can I ask you one last question? Do you think we also need, this is possibly controversial territory, but do we need to look at this vaccine that they're still doling out to people? Because I remember they go, Boris, we've world-beating game changer. This is it. We've beaten the virus. Take this and you won't get COVID. So we all go, all right. So they have the vaccine. People took the vaccine. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. It won't stop you getting COVID. But the good thing is you won't be able to transmit. You won't be able to pass it on to your granny or anything like, oh, sorry. You will be able to pass it on. It won't stop you catching it or passing it on. But we think it might stop you dying. I'm not sure about that last quality that it was supposed to have. But, I know doctors, they just say, look, there are three kinds of vaccines. There are strong vaccines, the kind of vaccines that one jab, it lasts for life. There are weak vaccines that, you need to keep topping up. And there are very weak vaccines that you ought to be rather suspicious about. And there's no doubt whatsoever that our COVID vaccine was in the very weak category.
I think it's worse than it being in a weak category. Everyone was put into a state of fear. They were peddled something. We were told originally it was only for a certain demographic, and then they were pushing it to children as young as 6 months in America, and pursuing it and threatening people with their jobs and other things. Utterly unacceptable. At togetherdeclaration.org, people should keep an eye out on this. We're going to be doing some more work about this. We delivered the Perseus report with Hart and many others to the UK HSA, saying there should be the same standards that we have in manufacturing manufacturing and food. We should have that. And, you know, I consider things like Gavi and the different organisations that are involved unacceptable, the way it was peddled and presented, and also what the consequences are far higher, the impacts and the harms, than any other procedure that's been in the last 3 decades. So lots of serious questions, a huge problem that we upended hundreds of years of medical notions of autonomy and informed consent, and absolutely needs to be addressed. And the problem that there's been avoiding litigation, and we've seen all sorts of things of not being willing and actually having it obscured, the data and the information and links to deaths and everything. It gives us big pause. The public should always be front and centre, not technocrats, not big pharma. It should be what the public needs and what the country needs. And that's why together we're now organised and determined to make sure we put that front and centre, and we'd encourage your viewers and listeners all to get involved with that.
Alan, great to talk to you, and keep up the great work. That's Alan Miller, the co-founder of the Together Declaration, that campaigns all about this, all about the absolute disaster of the COVID crisis that continues to this day. And that COVID inquiry, what use is this to us? What use is this to us? Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rising tide of, or the worrying rising tide of sex crimes by migrants and asylum seekers. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Pauline Wally is a cleaner. She works in Liverpool, 59 years old. She was violently attacked and sexually assaulted by a Syrian national this week, Ali Akhturan. He's 19. Actually appeared in court on October the 7th, where he pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting poor Pauline, and was not sent to prison. He was given a suspended sentence, which is the equivalent of letting people off. Pauline has now said she lives in fear that this Syrian guy could be anywhere. I say, why wasn't he deported, for God's sake? But he's wandering the streets, and Pauline is terrified. We've learnt today that a migrant has admitted raping a 12-year-old girl in Nuneaton in an attack that sparked a massive protest up there. And the statistics are getting worse and worse and worse. We've learnt that an investigation by the Mail on Sunday in the summer revealed that at least 312 asylum seekers living in taxpayer-funded hotels have been charged with a total of 708 alleged crimes. And even more worrying, these charges included serious offences such as 18 counts of rape, 35 sexual assaults, 27 attacks on emergency workers, 51 thefts and 43 drugs. But it's the drug offences, but it's the sexual assaults and the rapes. Only 2 weeks ago in Bournemouth, a lady was raped in a park. An asylum seeker has been arrested for that. We all know about old Hanish Kubatu, don't we? The sex fiend in Epping who sexually assaulted 2 women there. One, a small boat migrant who came across from Afghanistan was immediately billeted in Falkirk in an asylum seeker hotel in Scotland. He walked straight out and viciously raped a local 15-year-old girl, a vulnerable girl. He got 12 years for that. He said, "Oh, I didn't realise you took sexual assault so seriously in this country where I come from. It's not such a big deal." See what I'm talking about? Let's talk to the senior fellow at the Centre for Migration Control, Tom Jones. Welcome to the show, Tom. This is a problem, isn't it? The rising tide of sex crimes, either charges or convictions by asylum seekers, by migrants.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think in the last year, foreign nationals accounted for between 28 and 34% of convictions for sexual assaults on women, which means that they are convicted on average at a rate of kind of 2.24 times the average British person. And I think foreign nationals also accounted for a quarter of all rape convictions last year. Now, it's actually not particularly useful to talk about these crimes in terms of all migration, because the profile of migrants who are committing these crimes is very, very specific. So Afghans and Eritreans, for example, are more than 20 times likely to be convicted of sexual offences than British citizens, but Australians and Japanese migrants are actually less likely than British citizens to be convicted of sexual offences. So there is a real difference in migrant profiles, but obviously the people who are coming over on the small boats, illegal arrivals, have a profile that is much more likely to commit these offences.
Well, the thing is, Tom, you know, for example, the horrible case that I just cited, Afghani guy from Afghanistan came across on a small boat, illegal migrant, broke into our country illegally, 26 years old. And as is our wont, we immediately put him into a lovely 4-star hotel and started giving him 50 quid a week and free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, all that absurd generosity we shower these people who break into our country unlawfully with, God knows why. So we send him directly to Falkirk. He got a nice hotel there, walked straight out, raped this girl behind a pub, got 12 years. He was absolutely enraged by that. But his defence, his actual defence in court was, well, I come from a culture where this kind of crime is not considered to be that big a deal. So essentially, when you talk about the kind of migrants that commit these crimes, they come from cultures where, shall we say, the safety and the dignity of women is not so respected as it is here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Places like Afghanistan, of course, famously, you know, the women in Afghanistan do not have a good standard of living because they are subjected to this, and they are viewed as much less than men. And by importing the people from those countries, we are importing the attitudes, because, you know, we don't have an integration system in this country. It's not possible to integrate people at the rate at which they are coming into this country. And some of the views that these people hold are, frankly, I don't think we should be integrating them into our society. I don't think we should tolerate that in our society. But obviously, you touched on the difficulty of deportations. And we do have to face up to the fact that this is not just a migration problem, it's a migration in context problem. And the context is that there has been a massive decline in convictions for sexual offences, a decline in prosecutions, a massive shortening of sentences, thanks to prison overcrowding. So we have imported people into a system where we're not actually criminalising rape and sexual assault properly, and then asking these people with third world attitudes towards women to conduct themselves accordingly.
And, we're talking about poor Paulie Wally in Liverpool, who said this Syrian guy, he's 19 years old, violently sexually assaulted her. He goes to court on October the 27th, Liverpool Crown Court, pleaded guilty to sexual assault, got 14 months in prison, suspended for 18 months. So in other words, he walked free from court. My question there is, A, why didn't he go to jail? And B, what's he still doing in the country? We had Shabana Mahmood's alleged hardline crackdown, all these measures. How about this? Why wasn't this in her list of crackdown measures? That as soon as, I don't care if it's sex or otherwise, but particularly sex offences, as soon as you commit a crime, as soon as you break our laws, particularly if it's an egregious offence like a sex assault or rape, you're out, you're gone. Why wasn't that in her measures? Why is this guy still in Britain?
Well, the reason he's not in prison is actually largely due to prison overcrowding.
Yeah.
So
I take that point. But however, he should go to jail. But why is he still in the country, Tom?
Well, the fact is that Shabana Mahmood and the Labour Party are not prepared to do the necessary that makes it easy to deport these people. It's actually quite difficult to deport people in this country. We do manage it occasionally, but it's very difficult because they are given cycle after cycle after cycle of appeal at various cases, at various levels, against various pieces of human rights legislation, which essentially are being used to keep foreign sex criminals in this country and at large. And Labour is not prepared to tackle that problem. And therefore they are left doing basically technocratic reforms where we pay them if they agree to go, but fundamentally it's very hard to get rid of people.
Well, I think that is the point. And the ECHR, a continued membership of the European Convention on Human Rights, will always mean that these people will appeal and appeal and appeal and probably succeed. If we don't leave the ECHR, it's not the panacea that will cure our entire migrant crisis, but it is the absolutely crucial starting block to solve the crisis. If we don't leave the ECHR, it's all a waste of time, and it's very, very worrying that there are more and more sex crimes being committed by asylum seekers, these people who break into our country illegally. Tom, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Sir Tom Jones, Senior Fellow at the Centre for Migration Control. Coming up, we're going to talk about Meghan Markle next. This kind of weird thing. We'll show you the proof. She seems to be trying to be really like her husband's mother, the late great Princess Diana. We'll show you the pictures. It kind of weirds me out. We'll talk about that after the break.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. They're dropping like Skittles at the BBC. BBC board member Shumit Banerjee has resigned as a non-executive director, the state broadcaster has just announced. Not sure why, but yeah, they're falling down there left, right and centre. The Director General, Tim Davie, has gone. The head of news, Deborah Turnus, has gone. And now board member Shumit Banerjee. So the place is in chaos, isn't it? No wonder nobody's paying their TV licence. Right, in the studio is my excellent producer, usually for my evening show. She'll be presenting it later, doing a better job than me as usual. It's Samara Gill. Welcome.
Welcome to you, Kevin, on this show. Yeah. Wow, I can't even talk properly. This is what's going on.
Change there,
yeah, exactly.
Right, let's seriously, let's get going because we haven't got much time. First of all, this weird business of Meghan Markle. She's been mocked by fans because this photo spread she's done for Harper's Bazaar magazine, in which she's given a bizarre interview. And these are other pictures as well, and so on and so forth. She is, like, kind of just looking like Diana.
If you're listening, it looks like a serial killer has gone and sort of taken the skin of someone and is trying to wear it.
Yeah, it's very odd. So, yeah, as I say, if those of you who are watching could see exactly what we're talking about. So there are sort of Vogue pictures of Diana when she was still alive, God rest her soul, on the left-hand side. In these poses, similar clothes, 3 of them, and then on the right-hand side are poses that Meghan Markle has just done for Harper's Bazaar, and they are like mirror images. How weird.
Weird or confected, or, you know, this is something that she's been working on. We know that Meghan has always drawn upon Harry's sort of, not lust for the sight of his mother, but it's...
Hang on now, hang on. Whoa.
Well, no, he has an Oedipus complex. That's what I'm trying to say.
It is very... Look, I think she's pretty obsessed with Diana as well. Harry's obsessed with his late mother. I suppose he's got a right to it. It's his mum.
Yeah.
But there's something kind of weird about Harry's wife sort of obsessively trying to be like his mother.
I think, as we've known from different sort of interviews that she's done, Meghan has revealed that, you know, she believes that she is Harry's saviour. She believes that she saved him from his family. She saved him from the brutality of the firm and the royal family, and she saved him from the woes of his mother. I mean, he never quite recovered from that tragic death that happened when he was a teenager. Yeah. And I think that she's preyed upon those vulnerabilities.
It's a very sad. If you're watching, you'll see what I mean. But if not, just go onto Google, look it up, look up Harper's Bazaar, Vogue and Meghan. You'll see exactly what we mean. It is strange. Very quickly, before you go, Samara, we need to talk about President Trump, Donald Trump, calling the reporter for the Bloomberg operation on Air Force One. She was asking him about the Epstein files. He doesn't like that question. And he said, "Be quiet. piggy. And everybody, the sisterhood are enraged. Women are particularly annoyed. I mean, I can see it's not a particularly nice thing to say, but here we are getting our knickers in a twist about hurty words again. This is a president that gives more access to the media than any other president ever.
Totally. It's like we're looking for him to slip up. I mean, people say when they go on those planes with Trump that he does not sleep. He does not stop. I mean, think about Air Force One. It's got multiple bedrooms. It allows people to relax and chill. It's a bit of downtime for the president. No, he's out there actually doing his own press pool with the press. So they should not be lambasting him for, you know, having a bit of, I would call it a weak moment.
I don't think it's not his greatest moment. You know, not very nice. But, you know, it's just hurty words again. You know, he got upset because she got on about the Epstein files. He doesn't like it. He goes, be quiet, piggy. It's kind of weird. I mean, that's it. It's not nice. And, of course, Starmer's going, I will always be respectful to journalists. Well, I think Trump is respectful to journalists by giving them so much access. This is the most transparent presidency in history. Just quickly.
No, Starmer is the one who hides the truth from the journalists. Don't let me take you back to Southport, where he wasn't telling us any information.
Exactly
this is someone who hides behind closed doors while Trump talks to the public.
Absolutely. Well done, Samara. Samara Gill there. Coming up, James Wild, the Shadow Exchequer Secretary, on the upcoming budget. That after the news. 6 p.m. We'll be back in just a little while.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the final hour of Drive Time. We've got a lot coming up for you. In 20 minutes or so, we're going to be talking to Billy Crotty. He's a tree surgeon. He's a patriot. He hung up 300 flags, Union Jacks and St George's flags, in his local area, Cambridgeshire. And he had a contract as a tree surgeon with the local council, £9,000 contract. They cancelled it because he'd been hanging up flags. When did hanging up our national flags, be it English or British, become a crime, punishable by dismissal? What is that all about? I'm going to take some calls later on, so let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. And also we'll find out from Alex West from The Sun what Britain's favourite newspaper has got lined up for you tomorrow. And then, as I say, we'll take calls later in the show, towards the end of the show. Now, before any of that, though, we need to talk about the budget. The clock is ticking, countdown to disaster that will unfold. Rachel from Accounts, will deliver her budget from hell next Wednesday, and we are all quivering in our boots. Let's talk to Shadow Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury, Conservative MP for North West Norfolk, James Wild. Thanks for joining us, James.
Good evening.
How worried are you about this upcoming budget?
Well, like everyone else, like every business, pretty worried. I mean, it's been quite a long time coming, and we've seen a lot of speculation, a lot of taxes that the Chancellor's thinking of putting up. So in some ways, we'll be put out of our misery on Wednesday, at least know how much is going to be taken out of our pockets. But this is all a result of the bad choices that she made a year ago. She whacked £25 billion on jobs. Funny old thing, jobs have gone down ever since. Every month, unemployment's gone up month after month. And she said then this was a one-off. She wasn't going to come back for more taxes. But we've seen in the way that her and the Prime Minister have been acting, it's very clear she's going to be putting up our taxes again on Wednesday, making the wrong choice. We spend £1.3 trillion as a country. She doesn't think there's any savings to be made in that. I think that's crazy. We've set out an alternative approach, save £47 billion, get rid of stamp duty, do some stuff to get the economy moving.
Now, you know, until, was it last week, they were going to hit us with an income tax rise, the first basic income tax rise since the 1970s. Suddenly they staged this dramatic U-turn. Well, I say they because, let's face it, Rachel's not really making the decisions here. Number 10 Downing Street is, because they're terrified about the political ramifications of what might happen in this budget. Now, because of gilt yields changing, because the American economy took a downturn, she got the lucky break of a £10 billion windfall, which made her and Keir feel, well, hang on, we can maybe get away with not imposing this income tax rise on the poor people of Britain, the long-suffering taxpayers of Britain. So that's off the table now. But what is back on the table is what it will be replaced by is something even worse, I think, which will be this sort of crazed mosaic, this smorgasbord of loads of small taxes, left, right and centre, all over the place, along the lines of the farmers' inheritance tax. Now, traditionally, when you try to raise a lot of money with loads of tiny little taxes, it's a nightmare. First of all, you don't tend to collect the money, and secondly, you really make lots and lots of different elements of society very fed up. So the replacement for the income tax rise is going to be probably even worse than the income tax rise.
Well, when you go to Scandinavia on holiday, you generally look forward to a smorgasbord being set out in front of you, but not this time. I think one thing it looks like they are going to do, so they're not going to raise the rates of income tax. What they're going to do is extend the freeze on the thresholds, which is a sneaky way of pushing more people into paying higher amounts of tax. But a year ago, Rachel Reeves said she was going to end that freeze because it was unfair and it would hurt working people. Now, a year on, she looks like she's going to break that promise again and whack people. But as you say, there's things like gambling taxes, maybe a tax on the main family home, whacking up people's council tax. It's all going in the wrong direction. As a country, we're spending too much, we're borrowing too much, and we're obviously taxing people too much. We've got to live within our means, and that means making some prudent savings and not putting more pressure onto businesses and on individuals and letting them keep more of their own money. But we've seen the figures today. Rachel Reeves has borrowed more this year than any other year on record, apart from during COVID, which was obviously an exceptional time. So she hasn't got control of the public finances, and it's everyone watching this show is going to be paying the price.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I presume, that poor, benighted section of society, smokers, who ought to remind everyone, you might not like it as a habit, but it is legal. There's nothing illegal about that. I presume they'll, as always, be hit by a big tax rise, a big rise on cigarette tobacco duty. So that can be expected. But do you think she'll hit drinkers as well? Do you think booze will get a tax on it?
Well, I think we will see that. I think we saw that last year, taxing wines and spirits, and laughably giving people 1 penny a pint off the price of a pint, which is completely nonsensical. Doesn't add up. I think the thing with tobacco tax is actually, even the Office for National Statistics has said taxes on tobacco are reaching a point where they are reducing the take that's actually involved in that, and the Laffer curve effect is kicking in on that, and we're seeing that a bit on alcohol taxes as well. But she's going to be scrabbling around to find these other taxes. But the income tax threshold freeze will raise about £8 billion alone and push more people into the higher rate tax, for example, hitting them hard when people need to have a little bit of an ease of the burden. We saw as well, inflation is still nearly twice what it should be. Food inflation actually went up last month, so every time people go into the supermarket, it's costing them more to put food on their table. But the Chancellor and the Prime Minister don't seem to have a clue and don't seem to be listening or talking to any businesses. Whenever I talk to businesses, they've all put their investment on hold. They're not recruiting anyone because they're paranoid about what's going to come from this budget. So we really need to have a rethink. We set out an alternative approach, living within our means, reducing some taxes, reducing some of the deficit. Unfortunately, it looks like the Chancellor is hell-bent on just coming back for more, which she said she wouldn't do only a year ago.
Yeah, of course, when I was asking you about tax on booze, I was asking for a friend. The reason she's got to impose this dreadful budget from hell on us next Wednesday is because of her budget from hell last October, where it was a £40 billion tax grab, the biggest tax grab in modern history. And as you said earlier, it was like a great big boot crushing the economy, crushing growth, ruining businesses. The national insurance hike continues to be a disaster. And because of that disastrous growth-killing budget, she liked to go on about, didn't she? She used to go on about this kind of fantasy £22 billion black hole in the finances that she inherited from the Tories. There was never any evidence to prove that actually existed. The Financial Times said that it didn't. But because of her budget from hell last October, she has created her very own, very real massive black hole in our finances to the tune of 40 to 50 billion pounds, and that's why she's got to fill it. She's got to give us another budget from hell to fill the black hole that she has created herself. So I guess what I'm asking you here, James, we really do have a crisis of competence here in terms of our Chancellor of the Exchequer, don't we?
Well, yeah, just look at her record. Everyone warned at the time of the budget last year that if you put the jobs tax up, the national insurance, then you're going to have fewer jobs in the economy, and that's exactly what has happened as a result. But she doesn't seem to have learned a lesson. Look at growth; it's basically flatlining. It fell in September, was flat in August, and that's because businesses aren't investing. They don't have confidence in her or the Prime Minister that they, despite talking about growth being their number one priority, all the actions they've taken have helped to stifle growth in the economy, made it harder for businesses to succeed. So yeah, this is very much a problem of her own making, and the problem is that she and the Prime Minister don't have the backbone to face down their left-wing backbenchers who recoiled at the thought of saving £5 billion from a welfare budget. Spending on sickness and health benefits is going to be £100 billion by the end of this Parliament if they don't do anything, and they just backed off.
Well, they were forced to, and as we remember, the original plan was to Liz Kendall, the then pensions minister, secretary, was to shave Well, she was told you need to shave £30 billion off our welfare bill, but she recoiled from that and said, well, I'll go for 15. And then Keir and the gang said, oh, blimey, you know, the lefties on our backbench, they won't go for that. She goes for 5. They reject that. And we ended up the welfare bill actually increased our welfare bill, our welfare expenses. So that is a disaster. The continuing rise of at the moment, I think we spend up more than £300 billion a year on welfare and rising. It is unsustainable. It is unsustainable. So what we have here governmentally is stasis. We have an impossibility that the desires of the Chancellor and the Prime Minister to bring all these bills down will be stymied every time by their left-wing backbenchers. The country is in effect being run by a bunch of sort of sixth-form activists who sit on the backbenches of the Labour side of the House. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, the budget is unsustainable. It's unfair for taxpayers. It's also unfair for people who are just being parked on benefits and not being helped to get into work. And this is what happened. They came in pretty much without a plan. They didn't really have an idea of what they wanted to do with the country, just that they weren't like the bad old Tories and thought everything would be a breeze. Governing is actually quite hard. You have to have some principles and your values to guide you. And the problem with Labour is that when they stick to their values, that's when we see unemployment go up. That's when we see spending just ballooning. The Prime Minister's clearly not prepared to face down his MPs on welfare because his position is so weak. We saw that ludicrous briefing against Wes Streeting only a week or so ago. And actually, they want to increase welfare spending. They want to lift the two-child universal credit cap.
I tell you what, James, sometimes Westminster for us outsiders it's like a sort of hilarious pantomime, you know. We didn't brief against Wes Streeting. I would never, ever want to take the Prime Minister's job, liar. You know, it's just ridiculous. We're just watching a farce unfold before our very eyes. So I guess my last question to you is, this budget is going to be terrible. The people are sick to death of this government already. They're sick to death of the taxes being imposed on them. This is going to make it even worse. The rising tide of fury against this incompetent, useless, incapable government is getting worse and worse and worse. I mean, what do you think? How are they going to stagger on after this budget next week?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, from our perspective, if Reeves breaks her promises then on tax, then she should be given the axe next week on behalf of the British people. But we'll continue to set out. There is an alternative. We don't have to have this ridiculous ever more spending, ever more tax, ever more borrowing. It's simply not sustainable for us as a country. We need to live within our means, as every household tries to do, and that's what we'll be making the arguments. We'll keep making the arguments and pointing out where the government's getting it wrong on the economy, and we can only hope that they change course and actually look at the evidence in front of them.
And you've alluded to this. Suppose in my ultimate dreams, the Tories got in tomorrow, or everybody's ultimate dreams, anybody apart from Labour. Suppose you got in tomorrow. What would you do to sort this mess out?
We set out these plans to save £47 billion. As I said, let's scrap stamp duty so that we get the housing market moving, we get the builders, we get all of the things that happen when people move house happening in the economy. We lift our foot off the throat of British business and let the animal spirits get out into the economy and succeed as a country again, and have a government that's clearly on their side. Talk to any small businesses. They don't think Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer's got a clue about the pressures that they're facing or how to help them. That's what we need. We need a government that understands business. The Shadow Chancellor, my boss, Mel Stride, he set up his own business, grew that business, sold that business. He's a successful guy. He knows what we need to do to get the economy growing.
For the sake of the country, James, do you think it's good that Keir Starmer spends so much time out of it? Or do you think he should spend more time here? I mean, I'm sort of torn on that because when he's out of the country, somehow I feel happier. But when he's in the country, the shambles descends, doesn't it? What do you think about his travelling? He is the most travelled Prime Minister ever. he seems to enjoy getting onto aeroplanes. What's going on there?
He does. I seem to remember when he was in opposition, he used to criticise the use of government planes.
That's right.
Now he's never here. So I'm a bit like you. I'm a bit torn. Prefer to see him outside the country so he can't do as much damage here. But then that means he's leaving Rachel Reeves and, of course, his deputy David Lammy theoretically in charge when he's out of the country. So on balance, it's probably better if he spent more time here on the day job.
Yes, it is. He's down in South Africa where he's tripping up again. He's had a massive, great stumble. We'll show that video a little bit later. James, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. That's James Wild there. He's Shadow Exchequer Secretary. He is the Conservative MP for North West Norfolk. So he's kind of the Shadow Chancellor's deputy. Shadow Chancellor, of course, as James said, being Mel Stride. Let me know what you think about the upcoming budget. 0344499 1000. Let's take a call, shall we? Let's go to Janice in Essex. Hi, Janice.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Love you.
Thank you.
I used to speak to you on TV.
I know you, Janice. Of course I know you. So you say get rid of Labour. Get rid of Labour. Put some flesh on the bones there.
Please don't. Even, look, I don't vote. I haven't voted for anybody in a lot of years because there's no one to vote for. What the heck? I don't know if you watch Question Time. I watched 5 minutes of it. He's so loaded.
Oh, Question Time with
bashing Farage. No, look, he's my MP.
Oh, is he? So you're up in Clacton, are you?
Yeah, I live in Clacton.
Okay, nice, yeah.
He can't come down here. He'll get assaulted. So I don't know where he lives down there. His girlfriend's bought a house. But what I want to say is that enough is enough now. We are going at pensioners and saying they've got to stop it. Well, how about going at 10 billion that we're giving people that we don't even know? I mean, I could spend 2 hours with you, Kevin, and I have a great time. If I could get up to London, I love a nice evening with you and have a bloody good chat, mate.
Well, you're on that. You're on any time, Janice. But seriously, you say enough is enough. And a lot of people phone into the show and they go, right, we can't carry on. We've got to get rid of Labour. We've got to get rid of them. Well, we can't. We can't. We've made our electoral bed and we've got to lie on it. You know, hopefully, I mean, this is a kind of weird thing to hope, but hopefully things get so catastrophic that Labour have to, you know, fold their cards early. And there's a serious fear that our debt, our national debt, could become so uncontrollable by 2027 that they'll have to go to the International Monetary Fund, and that will mean the end of the line for Labour. So with a bit of luck, it'll get so bad by 27 they have to go. But that's only a slightly forlorn hope. The chances are they'll go to 2029. You know, how do you feel about that?
God help us. I'll be gone by then. I'll move to Davos.
Why not?
Along with
Why
the rest
not?
of Britain.
Well, go to Dubai. That's where everyone's going.
And the famous five. Jenny Blind, and we'll all move to Davos.
Well, I think that's the thing to do, Janice. I think it is. A lot, well, people, I think it was, we revealed yesterday that something like 260,000 people have left the country in the last year, 250,000. And we're not talking about millionaires and billionaires. We're talking about ordinary people, you know, middle-class people, working-class people, people who just cannot take any more of the chaos that this government is imposing on us. It is a disaster. But stay strong, Janice. We'll survive and keep in touch. Great to talk to you as always. Janice in Essex, regular caller of mine, great lady. Right, let's go to break, shall we? And when we come back, we're going to be talking to Billy Crotty, that I keep telling you about, a tree surgeon who's lost his job or lost his contract with the local council because he's a patriot and he hung up some flags. What's that about, folks? 0344499 1000. Billy Crotty, axed tree surgeon next.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In just over half an hour's time at 7 o'clock on YouTube, you can watch the latest edition of Plank of the Week. And it is hosted by this great guy hosting it these days, me. Let's have a look at the clip.
But what she has got is charisma, personality, and the cut through to attract voters.
Hang on, were you serious then?
I 100%.
Charisma and personality.
She has.
Angela Rayner.
She's the only
right,
one
next,
that goes.
Russell, what have you got? Not listen any more of this claptrap.
No,
she's got about as much personality as an earthworm.
No. See, this is wishful thinking on your
rubbish.
part.
Rubbish. You're such a lefty.
No, you don't understand, right?
I don't like left-wingers on Plank.
Her policies are terrible. But she is a popular figure. She makes
she hasn't got any charisma.
Do you know what
though?
she is? She is the Boris of the left.
See that? That's my little finger. There's more charisma in that than Angela Rayner's got in her entire body. But anyway, that's Mark Dolan's view. Old Dolan. He thinks Angela Rayner's full of charisma. Yeah, right. As I say, all the charisma of an earthworm. That's on at 7 o'clock. Plank of the Week. Don't miss it. Very, very funny edition, though I say so myself. Now, I've been talking about this for some time, and I'm looking forward to talking to Billy Crotty. He's a tree surgeon, just to lay out what the story is. Billy is a patriot. He lives in Cambridgeshire, near the town of Royston, and along one of the big roads there, one of the A roads there, he hung up 300 flags, Union Jacks and St George's crosses, you know, raising the colours, this wonderful sort of surge of patriotism we saw around the country. The local council, because of this, cancelled his contract. He had a £9,000 contract to look after the trees in the local area. They have cancelled his contract, axed the tree surgeon, because he's a patriot, because he hung up flags. I find that absolutely extraordinary. Welcome to the show, Billy Crotty. Hello, Billy.
Hello, Kevin.
Well, first of all, I've got a statement here from the Steeple Morden Parish Council. I'll read that out in a little while. But, you know, how long had you had this contract?
I've been doing big jobs for them probably over the last 10 years. I actually done a similar job, but even bigger. So they knew I was well capable. I've been in the game for 20 years.
Yep.
A lot of people around the area know me, and they know I can get the job done.
Right.
So yeah. I've done numerous jobs.
Okay, so you're valuable. You did valuable work for me. Good at your job. I don't doubt that one bit. So you went and hung a load of flags down one of the A roads around Royston, right? 300 Union Jacks and St George's crosses. Before we talk about that, just explain. I know it's a bit obvious, but explain why you did that.
Well, I've been open about it. Obviously, I wanted to do it to show that we could do it, but there is an element where I am doing it so that immigration gets spoken about.
Yeah.
We're in a situation where we've had 5 times the immigration in the last 25 years of what we had the previous 2000s. And we're the alarm clock classes. We're the people who don't.
You're a
really get
worker.
paid.
You're a grafter. So
Exactly,
listen,
yeah.
I take your point about all that. You know, my point is, you're absolutely right. And when I saw people like you around the country, I happened to go on a vacation to Cornwall in the summer towards September, and all the way down, it was inspiring. There were just red cross flags and Union Jacks hanging from motorway bridges all over the country. Fantastic. So I'm all for what you did, and I understand why people are doing it, because they're worried about the nature of this country, what's happening to this country.
We just want the discussion, you know.
Yeah.
It's
it's
getting spoken about, and as you say, it looks good.
It does look good. Now, so you put these flags along the A1198, which is kind of near the village of Bassingbourne in Cambridge, which is near the town of Royston. 300 flags. Good for you. After you'd done that, when did the council say to you, sorry, you're sacked?
It was probably about a month after I'd appeared on a bit of on a few regional news programs.
Right.
I was all set up, all ready to go for the job, really, and then I just got a call out the blue from the chairman, who, to be fair, is a decent man, but there's too many woke sorts on that parish council, and his hands were tied, and I pleaded with him, and he said, you know, he's a reasonable man, but there was too many dissenting voices from what I call the letter writing classes, the pro-EU, you know. But we are big in number. Make no mistake about it. We might not get heard because we are just the workers, but you know, we're from going around. We've been so them flags have been so appreciated. 90% of the people who I've spoke to have been congratulating me over it.
I just find it extraordinary that you lose your contract, you get essentially fired because you did something patriotic.
Yeah.
It's just what is going on in this country that patriotism is punished? What is?
It riled me, Kevin, to be honest, and it was about a month or so ago, and I sat on it, and I thought, do you know what? I said, like, my brother's a top prospect for Frank Warren, and I used to box. Not obviously that's why I'm climbing trees. I weren't good enough, but anyone who knew me from the boxing game would tell you that I had never laid down. And that's what I thought. I thought, you know what? This has cost me. You know, I know I'm going to lose jobs out of this. I know I'm going to lose a few jobs out of it with certain people. But I just thought, this is the mark of council culture. I'm not going to bow down to it, and it shouldn't have to cost me, but it does cost me.
You're exactly right. It's this weird syndrome where town halls, local councils all over the country are sort of spending some of them spending tens of thousands of pounds to go round ripping down flags that people like that you put up.
I'll tell you the kind of people who we're dealing with, Kevin.
Yeah, go on.
So what we done was we let it all settle. I'd lost the contract. But I still had some money from the GoFundMe page because I had a tremendous response.
Yeah, good, good.
So I went out and bought some Lest We Forget Remembrance Day flags.
Good for you.
So I thought, you know, it's all died down, but we're going to make an impact.
Right.
So I put them around Royston, and I put them around the Remembrance area. And do you know, these people on the night of the 10th and the 11th, they couldn't leave them up for one day. They were up for about 4 days. The night of the Remembrance. So when the morning of the 11th comes, they've torn them down.
Unbelievable.
They've torn the majority of the flags.
Remembrance flags. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Billy, let me read out the statement from Steeple Morden Parish Council. This is the chairman, Nick Badger. The statement is this. At the time, there was intense press interest in Billy Crotty and his flag raising. As a parish council, we are a non-political organisation, and as such, we remain neutral on the matter, and therefore felt it necessary to withdraw the contract. I'm not entirely sure that makes any sense.
Well, they're coming across a lot more biased now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I would have been in, done the job. No one would have. No. And look, can I just point out that my tree company and me,
yeah,
are completely different. My personal view. I've got a lad who works for me, my climber, and I could call him Red Dan, to be honest, because he, but we have debate and we get on well, and I don't impose my views on people. But it's no reflection of my tree company. My tree company and me are completely different. I've got
exactly right. That's a really good point, Billy. You're just trying to do your job. Whether or not you're a patriot shouldn't concern the council at all. And the fact you are a patriot, they should like you for that, not dislike you. I think it's a disgrace. I really do. And I thank you for coming on, mate. And, I'm sure your business will thrive because people will see what a good guy you are, and you don't deserve that. Absolutely outrageous. Billy Crotty, tree surgeon, sacked. Loses a £9,000 contract. He's been working for this council 10 years. They fire him because he put up Union Jacks and St George's crosses. As I say, since when did patriotism become a crime, punishable by dismissal? Let me know. 03444991000. Next up, the assistant news editor at The Sun, Tom Seaward, will be in to tell us what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow morning. So stay tuned for that. That next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
doing. Right, I was just relaying some of my stories of my days when I was on the Sun. That was in the last century, a long time ago, because it is time to talk about what is in the pages of tomorrow's favourite newspaper, The Sun. And with me to discuss that is Tom Seaward, Assistant News Editor. Welcome, Tom. First of all, I'm a big fan of your campaign, your paper's campaign, being run by your economics editor, Ryan Saby. Save Our Bets. What's the latest with that? Are you succeeding in saving our bets, or will Rachel from Accounts raise gambling tax?
Time will tell, I suppose. We'll just have to wait until next week. Certainly, we want her to consign these betting tax increases to the dustbin. So in tomorrow's paper, really good piece by Ryan Saby, our economics editor, who's seen a letter from the boss of Betfred to Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, as you say, basically saying that this hiking gambling tax is just going to trigger thousands of job losses and hundreds of those Betfred shops closing.
Do you know what I don't like about the idea of putting up tax on bets? Is, you know, OK, she's in a hole and she's got to raise taxes left, right and centre. But with Labour, with socialist politicians, there's always an element of, oh, gambling's bad for you. Just like they always put up taxes on booze. Drinking's bad for you. It's this sort of puritanism that worries me about this. And, you know, the thing about... So the only thing the average Labour politician or people like Rachel Reeves see when they look at the gambling is gambling addicts, people whose lives have been ruined. You know, so many areas of life, there are downsides to it. You know, drinking is a great pleasure to nearly everybody. Some people become alcoholics and it's terrible for them. But it doesn't mean to say that the rest of the drinking scene should be demonised, and the same goes for gambling, right?
It's baby and bathwater stuff, isn't it, really? Yeah. And I think what this campaign has really sort of delved into is the good that those bookies shops do. I mean, we've chatted to bookies customers, been there, they've had a heart attack. I don't know if that was like racing related. And, you know, they've literally been brought back to life by these people who are working in bookies. They're community assets oftentimes, and these tax cuts, certainly Betfred boss Joanne Whittaker is saying, will lead to those shop closures.
Which is tragic. You know, don't forget, it's a big employer, the gambling industry as well. So I, for one, and I'm sure you all agree with me, we back the Sun's Save Our Bets campaign. Good luck with it, Tom. I hope you win. Now, Just Stop Noel. I like this story. So the Trafalgar Square, the traditional Christmas tree, is chopped down in Norway. What happened?
Oh, it's just, I mean, what in the Extinction Rebellion is going on here?
Extinction Rebellion, yeah!
So people will know, right? Yeah. So every year we get this Christmas tree from Norway. It's the one in Trafalgar Square. It's famous, and it's to say thank you for Britain's role in basically saving Norway during the Second World War. And so there's a big event every November. They go and chop this tree down, and it was delayed earlier today, because this Extinction Rebellion activist was up the tree. They scaled the tree. My favourite thing about this is
66 foot tall, big tree.
Big spruce. But do you remember Swampy, don't you? From
of course. Well, exactly. Coronation Street and all that. Yeah.
But up this, how long was he up living in the tree for? It was like weeks, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Managed an hour. This Norwegian activist. He managed an hour up the tree before he came down. I don't know if it was too cold for him.
Must have been freezing, yeah.
Well, exactly. But it delayed the felling of this tree by an hour. Lord Mayor of Westminster was there, as was the Mayor of Oslo, who seemed to be a little embarrassed by the whole thing, saying she was quite surprised when I saw unwanted Christmas decorations on the tree. My favourite thing about this story, Kevin, just quickly, is... I'm sure you've seen all these complaints every year about how this tree is rubbish. It's, you know, there are always those complaints about how it looks a bit bad. So apparently there's a choice of 3 trees, and Norwegians get to vote on social media for their favourite tree. So I'm guessing...
For us?
Yeah.
So they deliberately vote for crap trees?
They're voting... I mean, turkeys and Christmas, really. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
And this guy was holding a banner reading Keir Starmer, Stop Rosebank Now. What exactly does that mean?
So that's the Rosebank gas field, which is a big gas field off the coast of Shetland. It's all about the plans to extract oil from that gas field. So again, you know, all tied to sort of domestic politics. But I'm not sure if Keir Starmer was listening really, but certainly doesn't seem to have had any effect.
Yeah. So this guy is the world's worst climate protester. Delayed the felling of our Trafalgar Square Christmas tree by all of 1 hour. The mayor of Oslo, Anne Lindeboe, told the local media the stunt should be taken with a little humour, adding, I must admit that I was quite surprised when I saw unwanted Christmas decorations on the tree.
Just amazing, isn't it? Just amazing.
Unbelievable. Listen, I like this story. So we all know, fish and chips with curry sauce. Not a favourite of mine, I must admit, but a lot of people do like that. One restaurant has taken that syndrome a step further. Tell us all about it.
This is an amazing story, and my colleague Andy Robinson has been up to Birmingham to Bizan's Grill, where they are making fish and chips, green fish and chips. So it's a batter that contains this sort of strange secret concoction.
Bright green fish.
I would recommend looking at the pictures tomorrow. It looks extraordinary. I certainly wouldn't eat it myself, but apparently it's...
I'd give it a go. Sounds all right. So this is so it literally is sort of putting curry into the batter. So you've got, as you say, it's called Bizan's Grill in Birmingham, and it's a Bengali-inspired dish, a cod coated in a secret spicy batter which turns it bright green, plus masala fries and curry sauce. Well, it's not... It sounds all right to me. It sounds worth a try. You're not convinced,
apparently it's quite spicy. I mean, it's 15 quid, 15 ingredients in this secret sauce or secret batter, including green chilli, Thai green curry paste, coriander, mint, mustard seeds and breadcrumbs. I don't think it's for the faint-hearted. Certainly Andy found it was quite spicy.
Yeah, what was Andy's verdict then? Very hot? Yeah.
It was very, very hot. Apparently it's not quite as hot as the other offering on the menu, which is an NHS doner kebab. Which apparently
very overpriced, I guess. Yeah.
Well, exactly. There's certainly a bit of a waiting list for that, no doubt. But it's so spicy, they claim, that it can fight colds and flu, but it can presumably also clear you out. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Right. I love this story as well. So, disgraced former French President Nicolas Sarkozy, who you saw recently, went to jail. Did all of 20 days in prison before they converted his sentence to a home prison. So he has to stay in his house, so it's not all that draconian anymore. 20 days in prison. But he's managed to write a 216-page book about it. What the hell?
It's just extraordinary. He seemed to have been doing nothing else in that prison except eating his own little yogurts and writing this book. It's 216 pages, so that's about 11 pages for each day he was inside. He was inside prison, of course, for accepting millions of euros from Colonel Gaddafi, the former Libyan leader. But he's written this prison memoir. He's claiming that his stint in prison, 20-day stint, didn't break him, and instead inner life.
That lasted for 20 days?
It didn't. I mean, I think I've had a dodgy tummy that's lasted longer than 20 days. I don't know.
Well, maybe you get a dodgy from the curried fish and chips.
Exactly.
But he's 70 years old. He did his spell behind bars in Le Santé prison. He said it was a nightmare. He was threatened by thugs, but it gave him an inner strength. But I think my takeaway from this whole saga, when I saw him go to jail, I thought, good, little pipsqueak, serves you right. But of course, this is a real egregious example of French two-tier justice. He's a former president. We can't have him behind us. So he says 20 days in jail, and then they go, all right, you can go and serve the rest of your sentence in your £5 million mansion. Like, come on.
Exactly. I'm sure all of the ordinary people in France would be desperate to get such a lenient sentence. But yeah, it's out on December 10th if your viewers and listeners want to have a read.
In the meantime, I'm told also amazing royal exclusive on the front page of The Sun tomorrow, so don't miss it. Big thanks to Tom Stewart, assistant news editor at The Sun. Buy it tomorrow. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll take some of your calls, maybe have a look back at some of the highlights of the show. That won't take very long, I'll tell you. That next, stay tuned, folks.
Big news coming this December. Our Talk TV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the Talk TV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Samara Gill will be in just a little while to tell you what she's got lined up for your delectation from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. for the Political Asylum. Usually that's my show. It'll be much better tonight, I guarantee you. Right, here's a quick message. Chris, BBC, go woke, go broke. They need to get rid of the Liberals running the corporation. For me, I stopped paying years ago. It's not the BBC I grew up with. I'm 74. I hope the final nail is very near. It's just really interesting. So many people of older generations, the BBC has just changed. It used to be a corporation, a broadcasting company that served the nation. The nation loved it, it loved the nation. Now it hates the nation and the nation hates it. Unbelievable, but bunch of lefties basically ruining it. Pete the Mole says TV licence is nothing less than legalised extortion. He says, I'm off to the Cotswolds next week to see the brilliant Christmas lights. Well, let's hope they call them Christmas lights and not seasonal lights or something like that. This quick last one. This is from Penny in Essex. Hi, Kev. £3,000 to leave with our money. This is about giving migrants, asylum seekers, people who broke into our country, loads of money to return to their country. They broke the law. Just send them back. Don't give them £3,000. Shabana Mahmood wants to put it up significantly, so they'll probably get 10 grand. So they break into our country illegally, and we go, oh, pretty please, here's £10,000. Can you please leave? Just kick them out, like Donald Trump, eh? Right, we've got lots of calls. Haven't got long to take too many, but let's talk to David in London. Hi, David.
Oh, hi. Good morning, Kevin. Kevin, this
morning. Yeah, you want to talk about flags? Yeah.
Yeah, tons of sympathy with this flag guy.
Yeah.
Look, this is quite commonplace, Kevin. Years ago, one of our UKIP councillors lost a contract with a school, and that was definitely because he was a UKIP councillor. He hadn't done anything wrong.
The crime of being right of centre. It's
absolutely disgusting, I think. And
I couldn't agree with you more, David.
I'm doing a lot of work at the moment trying to get our reform membership up. It's already 270,000. However, lots and lots of people will not join, unfortunately, because they're
worried about what we're talking about here. But I find, it's bad enough. Well, it's very bad that people should be punished for being right-wing, but punished for being patriotic, like our friend earlier. I mean, that's a disgrace.
Well, surely it's the same. You should be allowed to join a political party if you want to.
Well, but Billy Crotty, I don't know what party he belongs to, if at all. The point is, he lost his £9,000 council contract to look after the trees because he hung up flags. Because he hung up patriotic flags. That to me is just extraordinary.
I'll tell you what, Kevin, you were talking about betting earlier, but I'll bet you 100 to 1 that guy is a reform supporter.
Well, I'm sure he is, but that is, I mean, nothing against Reform or any other political party, but this is about patriotism. This is about loving your flag, the flag of England, the flag of Britain, and to be punished for that, I think, is a national scandal. I really, really do. David, good call. Thank you very much. David in London. Now it's time for, we just got time, the great Georgina joins us now. Hello, Georgina.
Good evening, Kevin. I was just thinking, Kevin, do you think if we give every member of the front bench of the Labour Party a few grand, that they
get rid of them? I love that idea. I'd be prepared. We're talking about giving migrants £10,000 to leave the country. I'd be prepared to give every member of the cabinet £10 million to leave. That would be a good investment and never come back.
Give them a couple of grand each and get them on the way, let me tell you. But, I mean, it's in essence like giving. If somebody breaks into your home, a burglar breaks into your home, it's like giving him a hand with all your stuff to his car so he can leave. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what we're doing. We are giving these people money. And
Georgina, I find it extraordinary. These are people who broke into our country illegally, unlawfully, and for some reason we then shower them with generosity. Thanks for breaking into our country. Thanks for breaking our laws. Here's a free hotel. Here's free food, free doctors, free lawyers, free dentists, etc., etc. And then we try to get them to leave. Could you please leave? No. All right, it's £3 grand. Oh, that's not going to be enough. Oh, 10 grand. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Shabana Mahmood, I'm telling you now, she has got no intentions of stopping this illegal migration. She's a globalist, like the rest of the Labour Party.
Yeah, well, look, I'll tell you what, Georgina. You know, she talks a good game, but she wants to stay in the European Court of Human Rights. That means the European Convention on Human Rights. That means all of her tough-sounding measures can never happen and never will happen. Georgina, I've got to go now because the show's nearly over. But it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for another great call. Have a lovely weekend. Georgina in London, the great Georgina. And she's just miking up, as we say in the business. It's Samara Gill. She's going to tell you what she's got lined up for my show, The Political Asylum, 7 until 10. What have you got lined up, Samara?
Oh, I've got so much. You're going to want to stay tuned for this. Obviously, we're going to talk about...
Shall I just stick around?
Well,
I'll sit here and listen.
Yeah, why not? Why don't you just
I'll
host?
sit over there and watch it, yeah. Go on.
We've got, obviously, the BBC, all that breaking news that we discussed a little bit earlier on your show. We've got, basically, you know, these Bangladeshi counsellors.
Oh, yeah, in Tower Hamlet.
Hamlet.
They're counsellors in Bangladesh and Tower Hamlet.
Yeah,
What's
who
that
would have
about?
thought? Well, actually, I've got one of them coming on my show tonight. He's going to try and defend his position. Yes, Ohid. I've been talking to him all day, and he's very upset because he lost his election in Bangladesh. So.
Oh, what, you mean I have to concentrate on being a counsellor?
Yeah.
God. What is the world coming to?
Well, his counterpart hadn't been to a meeting in 6 months. No one had seen her. So these people...
Did you see that story